easy?
All right, Shalom Aleichem, Rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class on Yalkut Yosef. We are on the topic of berachot. We just finished the dinim of beracha achona. What beracha do we say at the end, depending on what we eat? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Before we get to that, Shalom Eitan, Shalom Yona, Shalom Giacomo, Shalom Steve, Bruchim Habayim. We are going to talk a little bit about dinei kdima bebrachot, which means what bracha comes first. So last week we touched a little bit of it, but I want to get deeper into the details, Be'ezrat Hashem. So first of all, Shivat HaMinim. Shivat HaMinim come first, yes, it's true, but we to know that they have to come first only in comparison to other berachot that are borei pri ha'etz. But if I have a borei pri adama and borei pri ha'etz, there's no obligation to first eat the borei pri ha'etz or the borei pri adama. If I like the borei pri adama better, if it's complete, there are a few advantages that may be in the borei pri adama that I'll take it first. But if I'm indifferent, or how much more so if I like the borei pri ha'etz first, then I will eat the shivat haminim first. But within shivat haminim, and a lot of you know this, but it's good to repeat it, there is an order. This is an order that we do need to keep. What is the order of eating shivat haminim? Let's say you have over there dates and grapes and figs and pomegranate and olive. Anybody know, is there a certain order you have to eat them? Obviously,
From
you're
the
going to make a
Torah,
bracha
when you
on
read
one of
from the
them, not on
Torah.
all of them. But the chashivut, who gets to be first? Steve, what do you say?
Ziva, I don't think you hear us. Can
Wait,
you
I
hear
can
us?
hear you.
Yeah,
Is the problem with me? I can hear you.
yeah, it's a problem with you. You
Okay,
cannot
now
hear
I
us.
hear you. Okay. Well,
Can
Hashem.
you
No,
hear me?
Giacomo said something. That's why
Can you hear me?
Now I hear you, Giacomo. Sorry, I guess this phone.
From the Torah, when you read in the Torah, the fruits, the ones that come first, is the one that you have to first say the baracha.
Very good, very good. I'll add to that a little bit because the Torah has two parts of a pasuk, and each one has its own importance. The pasuk says like this: Eretz. Remember the word Eretz. Chita, sora, gefen, tena, verimon. And then another time, Eretz, zayt, shemen, udvash. So let's break it down. The first Eretz, Eretz means the land of chita, wheat and barley, chita v'seora. Okay, so obviously wheat and barley is mezonot or amotzi, that would come first. But now from Shivat Yamin, chita sora, gefen, tena, verimon. So you have gefen, which is grape, tena, which is fig, and rimon, which is pomegranate. But these don't come first. The ones that are going to be at the end of the pasuk are going to come first. How is that possible? The end of the pasuk, Eretz Zayt Shemen, the land of olives, udvash, and it means honey, but it actually is referring to the dates. Dates have a lot of honey pouring from them. So why is that changed? Giacomo said true, whatever goes according to the order of the Torah, but it doesn't go according to the list of the fruits. Baruch haba, amen. It goes according to who is closest to the word Eretz. All right? So in the first pasuk you have Eretz, and then you have two in the middle, Chita Sora, that those have to do with Boreh Minei Mezonot. So those distance the rest of the list two away from the word Eretz. However, at the end of the list, it says Eretz Zayt Shemen Udvash, the land of olives and of dates. Since these two are closest, number one and number two, to the word Eretz, they will come first. And then you go back to the first part of the pasuk Eretz. So Chita and Seora, we said we don't count them, but we're in distance of three. And then we continue the order. Chita, Gefen, grapes, Te'ena, Verimon. So in conclusion, if it's easier to remember through the pasuk, remember through the pasuk. If it's easier to remember the rule goes like this: olives, dates, fig, and pomegranate. Right? Geffen is obviously the dates. Zait is a olive, and then you have tamal, which is a date. Then you have anavim, which are grapes. Te'ena, number four, and number five, rimon. So remember the psukim that has twice eretz, and whoever is closest to the eretz gets to win. The trick is to remember that in the first part of the pasuk, next to the eretz, there are two items that are referring to wheat and barley, which could be a motzi or could be mezonot, depending on the circumstances that you eat them. So they get canceled out, and now you continue to number three. Since this is number three, the second part of the pasuk, eretz, zayt, shemen, udvash, has only two after it, so those two will come first, and then the three in the first list. Okay, I hope that was clear. Right. Now, of course, hamotzi comes before everything. Okay, so if you have an option to eat a fruit from Shivat Aminim, or you have a fruit to say hamotzi lechem min haaretz, first of all, we say hamotzi. That comes before everything. By the way, that's the reason why on Friday nights or Shabbat we cover the challah when we are saying the bracha on the grape, on the wine. Because really, the rule is that hamotzi comes before everything. What happens on Shabbat? No, on Shabbat there's a mitzvah to do kiddush and lekadesh et Shabbat bidvarim, and the kiddush goes on wine, and therefore we say the kiddush on wine. But the bread may get offended that usually he comes first, now he's coming second. We cover the bread as if the bread has feelings, as if the bread now doesn't see and he doesn't get offended. I don't know if the bread gets offended, but I think this is a lesson for us. Then when we do stuff that are out of the ordinary, even though they're right, you don't have to put it in someone's face because you're right now. No, it's a hide it, even though don't cause a commotion. The bread might now get upset. It's you. You may upset someone by doing something that he's not used to. You don't have to do it. Even if you're right, you don't have to show it in his face. I think that's the idea over here. Now, what comes first before etz and adama? So as I said before, if I have a melon and I have a date, the date is from Shivat Aminim and the melon is not from Shivat Aminim. Maybe I'll eat the date first. The answer is no, this is a etz and this is adama. So if you are indifferent, you like them both the same and they're both, say, a complete fruit and all the criteria that make them in the same value, then I would say, you know what? Let me start with the Borei Priya Etz, because if I'm indifferent, I might as well enjoy the Shivat Minim first. But if there is an advantage to the Borei Priya Adama, such as I like it more, complete is hard to find a Borei Priya Adama that is complete, maybe a peanut, all right, but other than that, most Borei Priya Adama is like a watermelon or a melon or pineapple, maybe a banana if you find a complete banana. But we saw that on a banana, there's already a safek if it's a etz or adama. So it's not so easy, but it's easier to say if you like the item better. When you like the item better, you would say Borei Priya Adama first, and then you would only say the bracha on Shivat Aminim. Okay.
What about raspberries?
Okay. Regarding all the berries, you should know, I don't know exactly how you kosher them in America, but in Israel, all the berries are very problematic and nobody gives a kashrut to berries, which means that the only way to buy them with a kashrut is with a sign on it says kasher litchina bilvad, which means you're only allowed to blend them because they have a lot of worms and little bugs inside of them over here. I'm assuming everywhere in the world it's like that, but I heard that in America there's certain things that they're more lenient on them. They don't all have to be bodek grows. For example, even strawberries, it's not so simple to eat. Some only, right now they came out with a bodek strawberry not frozen. But I bought that. Sadly, it did not taste good. So there is a way to kosher strawberries. If you rub them correctly, there's a few different types of instructions depending on how strict you are. But everybody understands that you have to wash them very well with soap. But the berries, some of them, you just cannot get the worms out. So in Israel, at least, the halacha is the only way to eat them is by blending them. And then once they're blended, it depends if they are blended into a liquid, then they turn into shakonia bidvaro. If they're blended with other things, then it goes according to the majority. But if you were to say that a berry would be eaten alone, then I know that uh, one of them is that looks like it's called tut petel in Hebrew. I'm not sure how you translate each one into English, but it's going to be a etz. Blueberries, I know I see in America in weddings, you guys have them in weddings. I never eat them because in Israel we're not supposed to, so I don't know what the din is over there. Anybody know the bracha on blueberries? I never eat them. I don't know if it's a etz or adama. I really don't know. But that could be your homework for us, Eitan, next time. How about I give you some homework this time?
Sure.
But was that your question? What the bracha on the berry is?
You were saying you were having trouble making
You're saying maybe
a
it's
whole
bracha adama.
adama.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking of a whole adama that I would have eaten, so
Right.
that's why I was saying it.
So I had a tree of so there's blueberries, which is the round ones, right? Those I don't know.
Yeah.
But the ones that I guess the raspberries, the
Black.
blackberries and raspberries, I had a tree like that in my house when I lived in a different place. And back then we didn't know the halachot. We were kids and we would just take them off the tree and eat them. And they told us that the bracha is bo prietz. But today also the technology allows us to understand how infested these are. So people restrict from it. So you can ask me, so why are you allowed to buy them and blend them? If I blend them, they're not in there. Anybody know the answer? Why are you allowed to eat a blended, if chas v'chalila there is a bug in there and it's blended, why is it okay? So
It's a smaller percentage, I guess.
So the problem with eating a bug is only if you eat a complete insect, right? Once it's not a complete insect, you're already not over on the isur. All right, so it's not a problem. Only problem that could be is even if it's blended, but you eat a kazait of the insect. But it's very not common to eat a kazait of an insect, because to eat a kazait of an insect, you need maybe 3 kilos of berries, maybe not even. You know what I mean? So it's very hard to reach that. So really, our problem is if you have a whole one. So that's why when we eat the berries, I heard an opinion in New York. Someone told me that some rabbi says that if you buy them frozen, then obviously all the worms or whatever it is that in there are already cracked and broken to pieces, and therefore it's more lenient. I didn't hear this opinion in Israel. In Israel, the kashrut for berries, it always says on it, you have to blend them. But I am aware that there are differences between countries, especially because of the weather. So sometimes when weather is different, then the worms have more difficulty penetrating. I know that in Italy, for example, they are more lenient on the strawberries than they are in Israel, maybe because of the weather. So it could be different in every country in its own place.
Why is there a question berries? Most of them, I guess, blueberries and raspberries are off a shrub, a tree. You can say that's you don't have to plant it every year, so it should be a hits, no?
So if that is the case, then they are both berets. I know that the raspberries and the raspberries are, but the blueberries, I don't know. They probably they're if they're always going on the tree, then it's probably going
Yeah.
to be both berets. Yeah, but I don't know because I don't eat them, so but I should know. Bezat Hashem for
Okay.
next time. All right. Let's continue with שהכל היא אחרונה בסדר. היא כוללת בנובע. Okay, regarding the
Zeeb.
yeah, בכבוד, Nick. Shalom
Hey,
aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem. Sorry, on Halachapedia is a website I think Rabbi Moshe told me about.
Mhm.
Say blackberries ha'etz, blueberries ha'etz, strawberries ha'adama, cranberries are ha'adama, raspberries are ha'adama. So there are some variances.
Okay. So makes you wonder why some like this, some like that. Okay, you have to look into the fruits. You have to look, each one has its own cheshbon. But basically, as we said, if it's a type of thing that regrows every year, then it's going to be boeh pri'etz. We saw some exceptions that even though it regrows, if the branch dies and it still grows from the root like a banana, then there's a safek on it. The bracha is adama, but it's maybe that it's a it's. I don't know the case with these. Maybe it could be one of those. Maybe not. We have to look into the details of that. But okay, we know that they're different brachot. By the way, in America, people raspberries are kosher. I don't see them like in Everfresh. I see they kosher a lot of things, but I haven't seen raspberries. Or am I wrong? I don't know.
Yes, there are, and the rabbis basically say if there's no bugs, this is the bracha, but you have to check for the infestation. So if there is no infestation, then you can eat it.
Oh, you check like a
That's
sample of
typically.
a handful, let's say, and if one is good, then probably the rest is good, something like that.
So my family checks everyone, but I
Wow.
guess the idea is if one of them is bad, you can assume they're all bad.
They have them at weddings and things like that. So
The blueberries I see in weddings.
no, they have raspberries and blackberries.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen, yeah.
Okay. I don't
So
know. I heard it's very hard to get them out of there, but I guess maybe there's a way. All right.
okay.
Hazak baruch. All right. So regarding Birkat She'akol. So as we said, there is not really an order to a beracha when you have one na'etz and one adama that you like. But if you have a bunch of things and one of them is She'akol, She'akol will come at the end. Because She'akol is a very general beracha, and it's more important to do more specific berachot, right? So if, for example, I said She'akol first, I took a cup of water, and I said She'akol niya bidvaro, and now I have in front of me Ha'etz and Adama, etc. So what's the halacha? Did I cover them? Now, why is this a question? This is a question because if I took a raspberry, blueberry, whatever it is, assuming that it's kosher and everything is okay, and I said on it She'akol niya bidvaro, halacha is Yotzei yedei chova. You don't say the bracha again because She'akol poter akol. So maybe in that case, when I said She'akol on the water, I already covered anything on the table. Halacha l'maaseh, if you did that, if you already said she'akol before all the other brachot, you did not cover them because you didn't have in mind that this cup of water is going to cover the apple and the pineapple and etc. All right? But lekatchila, it would be better to first say those berachot, and only after that say she'akol niya bidvaro. Now, same thing with adama and ha'etz. If I, for example, ate a watermelon and there's an apple on the table, so if I said bo pri adama and an apple, I'm poter the apple. Even though it's not the right bracha, I'm poter, because at the end of the day, it came out of the adama, of the ground. But if I said bo pri adama on the watermelon and there's an apple on the table, same idea. I don't cover the apple because in my mind, that's a bo pri etz. I didn't want to cover it. But we understand from here that, lekatchila, it's better to avoid that safek and say the etz. But again, it depends on the situation. If you rather the other one, if the adama is more tasty to you and you rather it, then it's okay. You don't have in mind that apple anyway, so you could eat the watermelon and then have the apple. No problem. Okay. Interesting halachot now regarding Eikar and Taffel. I'll give you an example of what is Eikar and Taffel. The classic example that is brought in halacha is when someone is eating a dag maluach. It's not so common in America. You don't see it a lot. Salty fish. What do you call it? I know the 830 million has it.
Herring.
Herring, yes. The famous herring. Ashkenazim here love it. Every Kiddush and Shabbat you go to shul. If there's no herring, it's not Shabbat. They have to have the herring. Now, a lot of people, they want to eat the herring, but it's so salty for them, so they take a cracker or even a piece of bread, not for the sake of the bread and not for the sake of the cracker, just so that they can handle the saltiness of the herring. So what is the ikar here? The ikar is the fish. That's the main thing that they're eating. The other thing is just accompanying it, all right? So what is the din with ikar and tafel? You have a cheesecake, you're eating a cheesecake, and inside of the cheesecake, there's also jam. What is the ikar? The ikar is the cheesecake. So if, say, the jam had a majority of actual pieces of fruit in it, and it would be bo so adama, but in this case, it's blended inside the cheesecake. The cheese is the ikar, and the jam is the tafel. Don't say two brachot. No. When one is obviously the majority, importance-wise, doesn't have to always be in the amount. Importance-wise, if one is the important one, that's when we say bracha. So with the cheesecake, we're going to say she'akol on the cheesecake and cover the items that are inside of it. Unless there's mezonot inside of it, that's already a different case, because as we learned, once there's flour in it and it's not just there for the fluff, it exists. I've seen cakes that have flour for the fluff, but if it's there to fill you up or if it's there for taste, then it gets the bracha of mezonot. Even though the cheese is the majority, it's a cheesecake, it's not a flour cake, it's a cheesecake. Yeah, but flour, the mezonot, they have importance, as we've learned. Okay.
Ziv, you contradicted yourself.
How is that?
You started off by saying the herring is the ikar, and you have a cracker because it's just to balance the salt.
Right.
But the cracker was mezonot.
Right. But what's the difference over there? The cracker was brought in just to help me with the saltiness. So I don't give it a beracha. There's no importance to it at all. Same thing with the cake. If you ate a cake that is a healthy cake, and the only reason they put flour in it is so that not because I want to taste it, not because I want to get fill from it. Those are the two things you have to have in mind. Do I want to taste it, and do I have to get fill from it? No one wants to taste the cracker to enjoy it. I want to enjoy the fish. I just need something to balance all the saltiness. It doesn't have importance on its own. Same thing with the flour inside a cheesecake that is just there to hold it together. It doesn't have importance on its own. It would still be she'akol bidvoro. But if the flour is there because I want to taste it, or because I put it in there so that it's satiating, it fills me up more, then it gets a bracha. Stand the chiluk. So with the cracker, with the fish, I didn't want it. I didn't want to enjoy the cracker. It's not there for any purpose. We'll go into even more extreme case. Bread. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, bread. I put the fish on bread because it's too salty for me. If I don't want the bread, it's only there to take away the saltiness. This could also happen when someone eats something very, very spicy, charif, schug, and he wants to eat a piece of bread just so that it doesn't burn him. He's not going to say Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. The bracha is on the ikar, in this case the fish. He would say she'akol niya bidvaro on the fish. Interesting cases with the beracha acharona. Let's say I had an ounce of fish, but I also had an ounce of bread. Okay, I had the same amount, and the bread was there just to accompany for the salt that was too much for me. Even though I had an ounce of bread, and usually the beracha acharona has to be berkat hamazon and an ounce of bread. In this case, I didn't say hamotzi, and I'm not saying berkat hamazon. because I also had an ounce of fish, and that was the Eikar. So when I said she'akol, I covered the bread, and when I say boreh nefashot at the end, I also cover the bread. The case that is unique is where I had a little bit of fish, but it was so strong for me that I didn't have an ounce of fish, but I ended up having an ounce of bread, 2 ounces of bread. So now in the bread section, I would have to have a Birkat Hamazon. But in the fish section, I don't have a bracha achona because I didn't eat enough. So what do? This is a unique case where the first bracha would be she'akol niya bidvaro, but since the bracha achona doesn't exist, I will have to go and say birkat hamazon for the bread. I didn't say amotzi. All I did is said she'akol, yet at the end I will have to say birkat hamazon. So this could be a trick question. How could it be that someone ate a she'akol niya bidvaro item and said birkat hamazon? The answer is if he accompanied it with something and he didn't eat enough of the shakol item to have a bracha chona. Because if there was enough fish, the bracha chona of the fish would cover the bread. But once there's no bracha chona on the fish to cover the bread, now the bread, I have to cover it. How do I do it? By saying birkat hamazon. It's a unique case.
Now, Ziv, if I'm having a cheese sandwich, 2 slices of bread, 1 slice of cheese, I should say I would see.
Of course, I think that everybody agrees that the bread there is for importance. It's not there just to take away from the taste of the cheese. You want the bread also.
So if it's intended as a sandwich, then you say amotzi.
Yeah, of course. That was this very specific case where you can't handle the spiciness on its own, so you shove something in your mouth for it, but you don't care about that thing. That was a specific case. All right. Now there's a famous dessert in Israel called krembo. Anybody know what a krembo is? Krembo is like a whipped cream, dry whipped cream covered with a layer of chocolate, and it's sitting on a sweet cookie. All right, so basically, if you hold it from the cookie, you have like a little tower of whipped cream covered with chocolate, and they sell it in 8 packs. Kids love. I used to love crembo. It's very very good. So why am I bringing this case? Because there's a discussion. What would be bracha on the crembo? Why is there a discussion? Because on the one hand, the whipped cream part is obviously she'akol ni'am bidvaro. On the other hand, the bottom part is boreh minei mezonot because it's a cookie. So do I say 2 berachot? Do I say just 1 bracha? And if I do say 1 bracha, is it going to be mezonot or is it going to be shakot? So the Yalkut Yosef says something interesting that I don't know if the reality is right for every one of us. But in his reality, he says the cookie is only there so that it can hold the whipped cream because the whipped cream can't stand on air. It has to have a base. And since the cookie is there just for holding the whipped cream, even though it's a mizonot, it's not important, and the bracha is going to be she'akol ni'am bidvaro. But if you are a type of person that for you, in my case, I love the cookie just as much, if not more, than the whipped cream, then I could say on it, boreh minei mezonot. All right? Now, וזה שאכל יחד, אבל אוכל בנפרד, יברך בנפרד. But that's when I eat them together. Okay? But if I'm the type of person, and you'll know crembo eaters, there's a famous move. They go like this. And then they have on one hand the whipped cream covered with chocolate in like a cone shape, which is, if you don't eat it quickly, it's going to melt in your hands. And on the other hand, you have a cookie and you enjoy them separately. A lot of people eat it like that as well. Says in that case, obviously, it's 2 separate items. Then you're going to say 2 berachot, mezonot, and she'akol. But if you eat them together, it goes by what's important to you. And if the cookie has no importance, it's just there to hold the cream, that's another unique case where you'll just say she'akol ni'am bidvaro, even though there's mezonot involved in the picture. Rice with added items into it, beans, lentils. What's the beracha on them? Or even meat. Sometimes there's a mix of meat inside the rice. So you say mezonot on the rice, and you're poter the beans, or you're poter the lentils, or you're poter the meat. This is all under the assumption that the rice is the majority. Okay, we learned this before. If already the meat is a majority, then the rice is not so important, or the vegetables are a majority, then the rice is not so important. But rice is a unique mezonot. It's not like the other mezonot. The other mezonot, once it's in there and I care about it, I have to say mezonot. But with rice, no. If I have a majority of meat and a minority of rice, even though it's mezonot, no. Even if I care about the rice as well, but it's only got a bracha of boreh minei mezonot because it's filling. It's not really a mezonot like wheat and barley items or one of the 5 grains. Those are real mezonot. And therefore, when it comes to Eikar v'Taffel, Then with rice, you go according to the majority. If there's going to be a majority of meat or lentils, the bracha will be on them. But if the majority is the rice and they're just mixed in there, then you cover it by lifting up your fork and saying Borei Minim Zonot on the rice. Even though I took a spoon of rice and there's not even one lentil in it, and I said Borei Minim Zonot, now I want to eat from next bite. I'm catching lentils. Doesn't matter. It's blend. It's considered one entity. It's a mix. Your mizanot covered everything over there. All right. And he says, what if they're not mixed? For example, I'm eating a plate, and on one side I have rice, and on the other side of the table I have kebab. Okay, so those are not mixed together. Obviously, it's going to get two berachot, mezanot on the rice, and on the kebab, shijon, she'akol niyam bidvaru. Tea with coffee, tea or coffee with a cookie. Why is he bringing this case? Because some would say that borei minei mezonot that I say on the cookie covers the coffee or tea. Because the only reason I'm drinking the tea is because I have a cookie. If I didn't have the cookie, I wouldn't have the tea. No, he says no. You can't say that the tea or coffee is taffel, is not a main thing next to the cookie. It's two separate berachot. You're going to say one bracha on the cookie and another beracha on the tea and coffee. What about beracha achona? Let's see if you guys remember from a few weeks ago we learned. Is there beracha achona on tea or coffee? Who knows?
No, because you're drinking it too slow.
Exactly. Assuming that it's hot tea or hot coffee, you cannot drink down. It's almost 3 ounces, right? You have to have a revi'it. It's almost 3 ounces in a sip. Obviously, that's not happening with hot items, so there's not going to be a bracha on the tea or coffee. How are we doing with time? Oh, we hit the time. All right. Rabotai, tizku mitzvot, chazak u'baruch. Good to be home, but I miss you guys already. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ziv.
Shabbat
Thank
shalom.
you.
Kol tov.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Z.
Thank you.